Race 2 is about to get underway here at Pembrey for the Super Series, and the temperatures are still very high on track, which means a lot more attention is going to have to be paid to conserving their tyres. But we have Brian Chandler back on pole position. He won race 1 yesterday. He's going to be able to do it again today. We'll have to wait and see. So Andy, straight on over to you.
Yeah, thanks Lindsay. Well, identical conditions to yesterday really, and a very familiar sight at the front of the grid. Brian Chandler with Joseph Marshall-Burks on row 1. Familiar because that's the order in which they finished the previous race. Alex Miller and Matt Pickford are next, Clive Powells, Cameron Thompson, Darren Kell and Liz Walton rounded out the finishers from yesterday's race. Then it's Declan Lee and Simon Fleet, and James Kell and Jeremy Crook will wait and see exactly what order they're in and whether they're all there, because there was quite a hefty repair job to be done, particularly for Jeremy Crook and James Kell's cars. The lights are on though. We're about to go racing again here at Pembrey. It looks like Declan Lee is starting from the pit lane, but starting from pole position is Brian Chandler, and not a great start actually, so pulling alongside him already on the outside is Joseph Marshall-Burks, and Alex Miller going with him as well. And can Marshall-Burks snatch the lead into the first corner? They're 3 abreast in fact, Miller to the outside as well, wheel to wheel out of the turn. The momentum is on the outside line there with Marshall-Burks, and he might have just got his nose in front. I think he has. Brian Chandler trying to fight back but can't do it, so Joseph Marshall-Burks gets the early lead. Chandler in second, Miller in third, and I think this man, Matt Pickford, is in 4th place. So down to the S's for the first time, and Chandler in fact now having to defend from Miller. This was not in the script for the race 1 winner. Then it's Clive Powells and Cameron Thompson side by side for 5th. I think the silver and green number 15 of Powells will hold on to that, which indeed he does. But that was a very, very entertaining start to the race. Now I can see in the background that Simon Fleet is there. I can't, however, see James Kell, so I don't know whether or not he's on the grid, and if he is, maybe starting from the pit lane. Let's see. I think he might be out in the spare car. I think that red car in the pack is number 33, James Kell. We'll get a look at that in a moment or two as it comes down towards us. But there is Simon Fleet. You can see he's out there. He's run out of pink wheels, obviously, now. He's had to replace that rear left with a much more boring white wheel. But he is still out there, and the car looks like it's in one piece, more or less. So across the line we come then. At the end of the opening lap, it is Joseph Marshall-Burks that leads, and Brian Chandler second. And now I think we've got a real race on our hands, because Marshall-Burks, you sense, probably could have gone with Brian Chandler had he got off to a better start in the first race, or restart anyway, but never really got the chance to. Now though, he's in front and he can control the pace of the race a little bit more. And as we saw in race 1, despite the slipstreaming opportunities that this circuit presents, it's not easy to overtake here in Pembrey. So Chandler is going to have his work cut out to get that lead away. Back and Clive Powells and Cameron Thompson battle. That's already using the touch over the leading trio, making their way out of the S's for the second time. With the 99 car, Joseph Marshall-Burks out in front. He has a race victory in this equivalent race from Brands Hatch last time out, the second race of the weekend. That though came after a mistake for James Kell, just after a safety car restart, handed him the race lead. Well, this time he's done it all on his own merit with a brilliant start, but Brian Chandler is already starting to turn the screw now, isn't he? He's applying the pressure, trying to retake this race lead through the dauntingly quick right-hander at Woodlands. Easy flat out in one of these well-planted Mark III MX-5s. Looking back here from Brian Chandler's car, we've put the rear-facing camera on his car because we expected to see lots of cars behind him, but now there is one car in front of him, and he doesn't like that, does he? Look, he's trying to get this lead away again, trying to weave around and distract Joe Marshall-Burks as they head down the pit straight, but Marshall-Burks having none of it, gets into the corner well. Then it's Alex Miller third, Pickford still fourth, I think. I did see Simon Fleet was starting to cut his way through the traffic though, and he's, I think, already into 6th place, but Brian Chandler attacking for the race lead again. Clobbers the curb through the left-hander at Demeni, and then through this curving left-hander behind the paddock into the S's. Could overtake the opportunity. This one of the best on the circuit, but he's not close enough to do it. Marshall-Burks is quick enough through the preceding couple of corners to actually pull a few car lengths advantage now over Chandler. Takes a much tighter line there through the second part of the S's. It's interesting actually, I've been watching the drivers there all weekend, and there are a couple of ways to attack that sequence of corners. Some of them prioritising the entry to the S's, and some of them prioritising the exit down towards Brooklands and then onto this long speedway straight where the speed, as the name suggests, does start to pick up through the right-hander again at Woodlands. The curve not really an overtaking opportunity, so for Brian Chandler it's all about getting the exit from this right-hander and trying to put the leader under pressure down towards the Hatchett's hairpin at the start of the next lap. Right out over, just over the edge of the curb there for Brian, but he's close enough to go up the inside line, is he? I think he is. Brian Chandler going for the race lead side by side, and I'm surprised that Marshall-Burks didn't move over to defend earlier then. In the end, Chandler had it made fairly easy for him, goes up the inside line, and Marshall-Burks has to concede the race lead, so he's had his turn out in front. Brian Chandler has had a couple of laps to follow Marshall-Burks. Berks now and see where he's quicker than him, and that seemed to be through the first part of the lap, didn't it? So Chandler knows he'll have to defend through this sequence of corners every lap, and already he's having to defend again because Marshall Berks immediately is trying to retaliate. Around the outside of the first part of the S is trying to tee up the exit, really, not even from the left-hander but from the right-hander here, and try and get on the inside down towards Brooklands, but it's not going to work because Chandler takes that tight line, as we saw a lap ago, and keeps the 99 car at bay. So this is looking like being a fascinating battle, isn't it, already between these two? Joseph Marshall Berks every bit the match for Chandler in the early stages. Now, though, the real test has come. Can he stay with Brian and stay in the slipstream and possibly attack again later on in the race? Well, as we head into the second half of the lap, where Chandler seems to have a slight edge, he is pulling away slightly on board with Brian. Now we can see someone behind us, and it is Joseph Marshall Berks, who's twitching his way through the last corner and goes off. Joseph Marshall Berks pushing too hard there in the end to keep up with the race leader, and it will cost him second place because Alex Miller takes full advantage of that to go up the inside line and actually completes the manoeuvre long before they hit the brakes at Hatchet. So it is a new second place man now, Alex Miller, whose best finish of the season so far came in the previous race. That was a third place. He'd love to make that second in this race. I don't know whether he's got the pace to go after Brian Chandler. He was losing touch with the leading two beforehand, but we'll see now. He might be spurred on after that mistake from Joe Marshall Berks that's handed Miller second place. You never know, he might be able now to learn from Brian Chandler and maybe follow his lines. Oops, that's Cameron Thompson. Oh, and I think that's James Kell, who's maybe just damaged his second car of the weekend because he was out in the spare car in this race and he's been tangled up there with Cameron Thompson. This is always the worry, though, when you start at the back of the grid, especially in a car that you have to assume he hasn't driven before, or at least this weekend. And unfortunately, he may well be out of the race again, and that's really not... It's not been a good weekend, has it, for James Kell? Wait and see whether or not he's able to continue. I think that Cameron Lee was rejoining, but James Kell potentially out of the race. There's Joe Marshall Berks. He'll be kicking himself, won't he? A lap and a half ago, he was leading this race, and now he's down to third place after an unforced error, really. A lap ago at this corner, he's right over the runoff area again, but keeps it on the black stuff on this occasion. Matt Pickford fourth from the blue car. In the background is Simon Fleet, who has recovered to fifth now from the back of the grid. So it's a good effort from him. Then it's Clyde Powles and Darren Kell. No sign of James in the background, but of course he would have lost ground, I guess, from that off that he had somewhere on the previous lap. We didn't spot where it was. There it was. That is, I think, James Kell, isn't it? That's off the road. Possibly not running with 33. I think he's running his car number 68 in this race, isn't he, James Kell? Yeah, so that is James, and he's pulled off, we have to assume, after contact with Cameron Thompson at Benny, the third corner on the track. Yellow flags there for covering that part of the circuit whilst any recovery work is underway. No need for a safety car because he's some way off the road. Once the drivers have passed that part of the circuit a couple of times and they know that the car is there and it's staying there, they should be able to put the green flags back out again and let them potentially overtake, although that's not really an overtaking opportunity in ordinary circumstances. So the leading five cars there, all with the same shot as they go down the Speedway straight, and at the front of the field, it looks impressively as though Alex Miller is staying with more or less at least, Brian Chandler, the race leader. The slipstream will be doing some of the work for him. But yes, look at that. The two black, or predominantly black cars are not quite nose to tail, but only a few car lengths separating them. So this is by far the best we've seen from Alex Miller in his Mark III MX-5 career. And he's already had a podium, his first one in the previous race. And now he wants more. He wants a victory, potentially. And maybe he'll be able to show Brian Chandler that he is a force to be reckoned with. There is Declan Lee in the white number 11 car with a recovering Cameron Thompson diving up the inside into the Hatchet's hairpin, and he goes through. That car was looking a bit dog-eared to start with that bonnet that was flapping loose in race one, but now he's got some bodywork damage to the front left corner as well after the contact that he must have had with James Kell at this part of the circuit a lap or so ago. So he's continued without any serious damage. I don't think that's affecting the steering or the suspension, but polishing out between races, and in fact Declan Lee now fights back up the inside, or tries to anyway, into the S's. Can't do it there though. Forces Cameron Thompson to outbrake himself slightly though, so the better exit should come for the white number 11 car, which it does. He looks up the inside again, but he's just a car length or so too far back to pull that one off. Now through this tight right-hander at Brooklands. Tricky little corner that. The apex comes quite late. It's a double apex right-hander really. It's the second apex that you need to hit, but when you're trying to defend you have to go in there tightly, and that can compromise your exit speed down the Speedway straight. Now this is the battle for third, and I think Joe Marshall-Berks maybe has overworked those tyres in the early stages, trying to stay ahead and then stay with Brian Chandler. And in these hot conditions, the tyres do need to be managed. They don't wear off as such because they are a semi-slick sort of track day tyre, so they have grooves in them, but those grooves start to move around a bit once you start overheating them. So the tyres themselves can last several races, and indeed some drivers will go maybe through several race meetings with the same tyres to try and save a bit of money. But in these warmer conditions, the blocks on the tyres will start to move around a bit like if you run a wet racing tyre on a dry track. Well, not quite to that extent, because these tyres are suitable for both wet and dry conditions. But yeah, these warm conditions, you really have to manage the tyres, and I wonder whether that's what Brian Chandler's doing as well, because he's really lost ground now to Alex Miller, who is right on his tail. So we've got a real fight for the race lead developing now between Brian Chandler and Alex Miller, and then a fight for third between Joe Marshall-Berks and Matt Pickford. And in both of those battles, it's the car that's second in line that looks the quicker. Look at this, Brian Chandler really having to defend now as Alex Miller goes to the outside line. We go into the second half of the race, and it could not be closer between the top two. Who predicted this at the start of the race? Alex Miller challenging Brian Chandler for the race lead. He can't go around the outside of Hatchett's, and he couldn't get the switch back either because he was a bit over-eager with the right foot there, and the rear of the car just snapped slightly sideways on him. But this is sending a clear message now to Brian Chandler that Alex Miller is quick enough to challenge for this race lead, and therefore Chandler cannot afford any mistakes. Towards the S's they go. Miller close in on the braking, and it's actually Chandler making the mistakes now. Look at that, locks up, runs a bit deep. That will compromise again his speed out to the right-hander, and Alex Miller is all over him, and Chandler sideways again. Miller sensing an opportunity, but the outside line is the only line available to him, so Chandler hangs on for the time being. Count on the fingers of one hand, I think, the amount of mistakes I've seen Brian Chandler make over the years, and already a couple there within the space of a couple of corners. He's feeling the heat now, and if he starts defensively driving to try and fend off Alex Miller, then you might not be able to count out the two behind, either Joe Marshall-Berks and Matt Pickford, because they will start lapping quicker than the leading two if they start really tripping over each other. Honda, Alex Miller not making friends with the apex there. The car width or so too wide, so just loses speed onto the pit straight. They won't be side by side on this occasion. For third place, it's a bit closer. Matt Pickford using the toe down the straight to reel in Joe Marshall-Berks, and then goes for it up the inside line. Is he close enough? No, he's not. Matt Pickford thought about it though, and he's forced Marshall-Berks to brake a bit later than he wanted to. So Joseph runs a bit wide, but no, the inside line is still not available to Matt Pickford at Spitfires. So positions stay as they are, and in the background, I think I caught a glimpse there of a slowing Simon Fleet, and that's a real shame. He had worked his way into 5th position, but that pace had sort of stagnated actually. He wasn't really gaining on the leading 4, and whether that's as a legacy of yesterday's shouldn't, we know not. But I think Simon Fleet pulling off to retirement there, which is a real shame. One of the series regulars, Matt Pickford, another series regular, and he wants a podium position here. Up the inside, down towards the right-hander of Brooklands, he's going for it, and this time he's got it as well. So Matt Pickford finally gets the job done and moves ahead of Joseph Marshall-Berks. So Matt Pickford onto the podium now. His best finish this season came in the first race yesterday, a 4th place finish, and now he's looking set to do one better than that. Again, he's another driver that I'm not sure I've seen on the podium in the past, so this could be a really, really big day for Matt Pickford, benefiting maybe from other people's dramas in the opening race to get that 4th position, but he has had to pull off some good overtaking nonetheless, and that was a real peach of an overtake there. That was textbook stuff from Pickford. And now he needs some textbook defensive driving to try and fend off Joseph, because I think Marshall-Berks will be fairly frustrated with this one, because he looked set to win it maybe in the early stages, or at the very least finish second, then made that mistake on Honda and allowed Alex Miller through, and then just got pounced on by Matt Pickford. This was actually a similar situation to what we saw in that second race at Brands Hatch, where in the initial stages of the race, Marshall-Berks had a decent lead, and then Simon Fleet and Sam Bailey were able to close him down. Sam, albeit coming from the back of the grid and sort of charging through as well, and he spurred Simon Fleet on in those final few laps, and they both started to reel in the leader. And on that occasion, Joseph didn't make any big mistakes and held on to the lead, but he's made another mistake now. Look, he's on the grass coming out of Brooklands. Those tyres, I think, are well past their sell-by date, and they've been overworked. The driver probably been overworked in this race as well, trying to hold on to it, and that's not the first grassy moment we've seen from the winner from Brands Hatch last time out. Sadly, that will be the end of his hopes of a podium, I think. Brian Chandler still not escaping Alex Miller, and is still feeling the need to defend heavily. Look down into Hatchett's hairpin. So Miller will try and team up on the exit, but again, trying to get that switchback manoeuvre done. You've got to be early on the throttle to make it work, but not that early and not that aggressive on the throttle, Alex. He needs to just calm down the right foot a bit through that part of the circuit. If he can make that work though and get up the inside into Spitfires, it could really apply the pressure to Chandler, who I think is feeling the heat anyway, both literally and metaphorically here from Alex Miller. In the still very warm Easter weekend conditions here in South Wales, Alex Miller all over the back of the race 1 winner through the second part of the S's. Onto the brakes, into Brooklands, and he goes up the inside, does he? Thinks about it, and Chandler doesn't really know whether or not he can turn in, and that's why you see drivers weaving around and maybe going to the inside line, even if they're not quite close enough to make the move stick, because that flash of movement in the wing mirror can distract the car in front, and it can make them think that you're going for it and that they maybe ought not to turn in. That's what Alex Miller is trying here, and for someone who's relatively inexperienced, at least compared to someone like Brian Chandler, that's really, that's the driving style of a very experienced driver, isn't it? That's something that we see the veterans doing. Alex Miller, belying his relative lack of experience here, is well and truly taking the fight to Chandler. This time he tries to go right round the outside at Hatchets. Now this can work, but he's back on the outside again for Spitfires. Can he go through? Yes, he can! Alex Miller's gone right around the outside. What a superb move that was. And he's taken the race lead away from Brian Chandler. Now can he hang on to it though? Chandler's looking back up the inside down towards the S's. Miller needs to go over to the left-hand side of the road to defend, but he can't do it, and Chandler's back up the inside. Late on the brakes. Can Chandler retake the race lead? Maybe. Miller's still trying to hang tough around the outside, and we'll have the inside line for the next 2 corners. Chandler's still wheel to wheel. This is fabulous racing, and that's 2 moves for the race lead around the outside there. One by Miller, one by Chandler, and in the end the positions stay exactly as they were at the start of the lap. But this has been one of the most, well, I'd say the best race of the season so far, and not necessarily the drivers we expected to be factoring in for race victories this weekend. But we've done a disservice to Alex Miller in expecting him maybe not to be able to challenge Brian Chandler. And he absolutely has, and briefly, for a couple of corners at least, had his car in front. Now, he's pushing now and maybe making a few mistakes because he'll be frustrated that he didn't make that stick. But he knows that if he just calms down and settles into that nice rhythm he had going before that side-by-side exchange, he's probably got the pace to close back in on the race leader. Matt Pickford is loving seeing this in front of him as well, because he's now a part of this too. And the last thing that Miller needs to do is make any more mistakes and start coming under serious pressure from the yellow car behind him. He needs to get his head down, forget what just happened, forget that he almost had a race victory in his clutches there, and just needs to try and find the pace that he had earlier on. Both of these drivers set their laps, their fastest laps, inside the first 4 or 5 laps of the race, as you'd expect with the tyre wear starting to take effect now in the latter part of the race, but their relative pace is still very, very close indeed. If anything, Miller fractionally the quicker of the 2. Chandler does have the fastest lap, 1 minute 13.6, which is about half a second quicker than Miller has gone at any part of this race, but more consistent pace for Miller means that in the second half of the race, Chandler just can't shake him off. Look at the way that Miller has already gapped Pickford again and is closing back down on the race leader. He's making a few mistakes though at this corner, Honda curve, which is probably one of the more challenging corners on the circuit in fairness, but he's just been missing apexes. That's a bit more like it. Doesn't quite hit the apex the way in which Chandler did. You saw the dust being kicked up from the race leader's car as he just cut the corner slightly. Not enough to get in trouble for exceeding track limits, I don't think, but just trying to carry as much speed through the turn as possible. It's all to no avail, though, because Miller is right back on him again. Tries this switchback manoeuvre out of Hatchets. Chandler saw it coming. That was actually better execution that time for Alex Miller, though. There was no sideways action that time. And had Chandler not quite got over to defend in time, that might just have worked. Chandler is looking the scrappier, isn't he? He's using more curb, he's locked up the brakes a few times, he's getting a bit sideways. Miller, despite the mistake he made immediately after losing the lead a lap or so ago, really hasn't put a foot wrong in this one. And maybe just could have been a bit more robust with his defence when he did get the lead away from Chandler. If he'd have got over to the inside line of the S's, he might just have been able to fend off the race 1 winner. Brooklands though, and a good exit from here could set him up for a slipstream down the back straight, but neither of them made the apex then. There were several feet between their cars and the apex curb. You don't really want to hit that apex curve though, because it's quite a robust curve at Brooklands, and it can actually unsettle the car and do more harm than good. So So they're doing right not to hit it, but they need to get a bit closer to it than that. Now through Honda, they're both inch perfect through there, and we're going to get a good view hopefully here from Chandler as we go on to the final lap of the race of the run that Alex Miller will have. Now it could be now or never for Alex Miller. Down towards the Hatchett's hairpin, goes to the outside line. Is he going to try and go right round the outside again, or will he try the switchback? He's going to try the outside line because this is what worked for him a lap or two ago. He can't do it though. Chandler shows him the edge of the road, and Alex Miller stays in line behind. So that's one possible overtaking opportunity gone. The next one is down at the S's, but I think Chandler's had a better run through to Benny there, and possibly will be far enough in front that he doesn't feel the need to defend. Let's see. Yeah, look at that. Miller not close enough to attack, so no defensive action taken by Chandler on this occasion. And now Miller is running out of opportunities because the next right-hander at Brooklands, the tight right-hander coming up, is possibly the last realistic overtaking opportunity. He takes a wide sweeping line through the S's, trying to carry momentum down into the next right-hander. I don't think he's going to be able to do enough here. Brian Chandler has driven a brilliant race. He's managed this well, despite possibly not being the faster of the two in the second half of the race. His racecraft has shone through, and Brian and Alex have both put on a fabulous show here in race number 2 of the weekend, but it's not quite going to be enough for Alex. He will get his best finish in his Super Series career with second place, but the victory for the second time this weekend goes to Brian Chandler, and a brilliant, entertaining scrap from the two of them all race long. Miller is second, Matt Pickford gets a podium, he'll be delighted with that, with Joseph Marshall-Burks not so happy with 4th place. Clive Powell's, is 5th, then Darren Kell and Cameron Thompson. The retirements from that race, Simon Fleet and James Kell, whilst Jeremy Crook didn't start. The damage from yesterday's race keeping him out of this one.
It's a bit warm out there. Well done, Matt. I know, I saw. It's like I can't drive much slower. What the fuck are you doing? I've lost the tyres by then.
Brian, another phenomenal result for yourself.
Yeah, it was really good. Boys at BC Cars Motorsport sorted the car right out. It was quite hot out there, so just managing the tyres was a nightmare, and I don't think I'd done that good a job of it because I had to work hard for that one. So yeah, they kept me honest on that one. So yeah, hard work.
Yeah, Alex definitely kept you going at one point. One point he just pipped you.
He did, yeah. He took the lead, and I thought, oh well, that's game over for me. But luckily, I just managed to get it back, and yeah, he worked well. Yeah, I struggled.
Alex, it seems like Wales is doing you a favour.
Yeah, I think I'll come here a bit more often. It's yeah, great race. Really enjoyed that. If I can stay on the back of Brian, I must be doing all right. So yeah, pleased with that. Very pleased.
I was going to say, you actually managed to pip him at one point.
Yeah, a couple of corners. I think I gave him a shock though, so I think that made him put his foot down a little bit more. But never mind though. So no, great. Really pleased with second. Really pleased.
Matt, I have a sneaky feeling this wasn't expected.
It wasn't really. I started 4th, and by the end of lap 1 I was in 4th. I saw the boys ahead scrapping away, and I figured I'd just do a little bit more tyre management than they were doing, and my tyres came good at the end, and I was able to get past Joseph. He went wide at a couple of corners, and I thought I'm going to have him here, and I did. So it was a really good result for me. I'm very pleased. There was nobody really in my mirror after that, and I was just watching Brian and Alex scrap a hit in front, but I was leaving him to it.